Okay, I'll just start recording and you just jump in. Guys, we got something crazy. He's here, man. DJ Lancerock.
Whoa.
What's going on, man?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Get close to the mic so you can sound nice.
Got it.
How are you?
I'm good, Miguel. I'm not. You're Miguel.
That's Miguel. I'm
You're
Diablito.
Raul.
Raul, but they know
You're
me as
Diablito.
Yeah.
Diablito.
I was like, should I contact him and tell him my name is Diablito? Because I don't know if it's a kid thing or not, So I'm like, it's Raul. But my real name is Raul, but they know me as Diablito.
Diablito. That's what it is then.
How are you, DJ Lance?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I can't believe you're here, man. Like, I've interviewed Alejandro Fernandez. I've interviewed Shakira. And I've never been this starstruck, to be honest with you. Like, you're here.
I'm glad to have. I'm glad to be here, man.
How are you, man?
I am. What do I say? Awesome.
That's cool, man. I don't even know where to begin, but I know your birthday just passed, man, and you were actually born on the day that I got married. Not the day that you were born, but my
your anniversary is April 5th.
April 5th, and that's why I got something special for you. Because I couldn't let this moment pass by, and here you go, man. Because this is an awesome time. So here you go.
What? Oh, is that a birthday cake?
A little birthday cake.
Wow.
For you, man.
Thank you. That is a big. That's a big cupcake.
Yeah, it's a big cupcake for you, man.
Wow.
Because we know it's your
Thank
birthday
you,
just
brother.
passed,
Thank you.
April 5th, and we're like, you know what? I need to celebrate DJ Lancerock.
I know. There's a lot of people. April 5th is a good birthday. There's lots of
Yeah, like who?
Pharrell.
Pharrell. Oh yeah.
Robert Glasper, the jazz pianist.
Yeah.
Paula Cole, the singer. Gregory Peck.
Oh, you know all these guys.
Vincent Tracy.
And you've met all these guys in
Colin
person,
Powell. I've met none of them.
Really?
Except
Oh.
for Robert Glasper. I was like, dude, we have the same birthday.
Well, I'd like for you to hold your cake up, and because we want to sing happy birthday to you. Right?
You're going to embarrass me?
Estas son las mañanitas que canta el rey David. Hoy por ser tu día cumpleaños te las cantamos a ti. You understood what we said, right?
Well, I know Feliz Cumpleaños.
Oh my goodness! Happy birthday, man!
Thank you.
What did you do for your birthday, man?
I don't remember.
Really?
I'd have to look at my phone. Isn't that crazy? Like I used to kind of be like,
Get close to the mic.
I used to be kind of like, I don't want to carry this around or like.
Right.
But things are so crazy now. People do so many things, and it's so fragmented. Like if I don't write down what I did, sometimes I forget.
Right. So your planner, I imagine, is just filled up with so much performances, appearances, and stuff like that, right?
It's not filled up with that. It's just filled. It just penciled in the days I can't do stuff. I have a lot of free days, so that's why I got to figure out. I try to plan things out, but sometimes you can be a little spontaneous.
Right.
So
you were born and raised in St. Louis, and what was your childhood like when you were growing up, man?
It was mellow. It was mellow. My dad was in the Army, and he was just getting out when my sister and I were little. I have an older sister, and right before he got out, they wanted him. The government's like, hey, we want to give you a job, and you need to go someplace. And so we went from St. Louis to Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, and maybe Ohio even. And then we came back to St. Louis, and I was there for 1 year. Or we were there for 1 year. Then he got out and started working for the government, and we lived in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Wow.
For 7 years.
And as a kid, were you always wanted to become a performer, a DJ? Really?
Not at all.
What?
Oh, excuse me. Nose tickle, something, little dust. No, but I was always into music. I was just obsessed with music,
right?
And so Leavenworth is as far east to the border of Kansas as you can get, pretty much. And so it's Leavenworth, and then it's like Kansas City, Kansas, and then Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. So we would go to Kansas City all the time, all the time. And, there was a record store there, and I remember, there was this contest where you could try to win a jukebox, and I filled out all these, and I really wanted to win the jukebox, and I didn't, but I actually got it. In my opinion, I got a better, because I got the entire Isley Brothers catalog on vinyl back then.
Okay.
As a kid, so I still have those records too.
So you went looking for the music. The music didn't come to you. It wasn't from your family or an uncle and stuff like that.
You know what? We had older cousins. I have this memory very vividly. We had this backyard barbecue and all. My mom's brothers and sisters were there, so all my cousins were there, and they're all older. There's like a gap where there's the cousins, then a gap, and then it's like my one cousin, Cheryl, and then my sister and me, and then another gap, and then it's their kids. So we're kind of right in the middle of the three of us, but I had older cousins, and they're out, doing all this stuff, and I just remember being 5, and one of them, like, turning on the radio, was like, oh, you got to hear the song, and it was like, The Doors, Light My Fire.
Really?
I just remember because it was such a vivid memory, like hearing Ray Manzarek's organ and stuff. I'd never heard anything like that before, and I was like, whoa,
That's crazy.
It was, but we liked everything, like my mom was really into like Nina Simone and Nancy Wilson and Sarah Vaughan and all these, Dinah Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, all these jazz vocalists.
Right.
And but she also liked Miles Davis. Like we just
Miles Davis,
had all this stuff that was so like that Bitches Brew album cover freaked me out when I was a kid because I was so little. I was like, why are their faces melting? Like it's pretty intense, but it stuck with me. So when I was older, I went around and checked out Miles on my own.
Really? No way.
But they were just both really into music, so we had music around a lot. So I just found my own path.
So looking for your own path and stuff like that, you obviously went to junior high, high school. You graduated from school. Did you go to college?
I did. The University of Missouri St. Louis. UMSL is what they call it.
Wow. And when did you get into the whole DJing stuff? Because obviously, back in the day, turntables are expensive and stuff like that. Who got you into the whole mixing, and how'd you end up on some turntables, man?
I don't even know how that happened. It was just, the story is very funny. It's because I just loved music, but I was like, I'm not going to be, I didn't take band or anything like that at the time. And I had this friend, John Traylor, who was like, he wanted to be, like the next guitarist in Earth, Wind, and Fire or something. He was great. He was always practiced his guitar and stuff, and he was a really good guy. And so I was like, wow, that's cool. But I don't know, like it was the early to mid 80s and all this music was coming out and MTV and stuff like that.
Hip hop was barely just starting.
So it was this thing. It was like new wave, electro, hip hop, punk. All of this stuff was kind of there at once, and then whatever was on MTV. So it was this mixture of, there wasn't really any labels per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Were you DJing already in college? Or
absolutely, I didn't, dude.
Really?
I didn't DJ until I was like 24 or something.
Oh my goodness! And so, what were you going to college for besides the party scene and stuff?
I didn't have the party scene. It was a. If I would have went to Columbia, then I could have traveled. But the campus was there, so people could drive to it. So I just actually ended up staying at home. I would go to school, and then so I never had the college experience like that. No.
And so
probably a good thing.
Probably a good thing. But then, so what were you going to college for? Were you going for a certain degree, or were you just going because you wanted to fulfill that?
English and philosophy. I don't know. That's what I was interested in, but both of them pretty useless.
So then, so you graduated college, and then how did you get into this whole entertainment business? Because obviously we know you, and I know you has.
Oh no, it's a long. Okay, I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version real quick. So what happened is that I was really into music, and I would get out of high school. I would always go to this record store all the time. I was like, man, I'd love to work here. Can I work here? Can I work here?
The record store.
And they're like, we don't hire kids. This was just back in the day, like record stores were more than that. They were kind of like head shops and stuff like that.
Right.
So they were like, we don't hire kids. And so I would be there like, if not every day, every other day. I was there all the time. And then finally they, relented and like they hired me and another branch because it was a local chain called Streetside Records.
Okay.
And I got hired at one location and this other guy got hired and we were both like 18 or so, like that, 19. Right. And that was like one of the first times they were hiring somebody who wasn't 21.
Wow, for a record store, they wanted you to be 21.
Back then, they
Interesting.
did.
Wow.
Absolutely. You know?
Okay.
You know, like it was definitely a different world. Definitely a different world.
So that's
for
how come you know about all these names and all these artists, because you were there. You actually worked at a record label.
Well, I was there, and then, you know, it was different. Then they you know,
Right.
we had homework. You know, you had to go to a section and learn stuff. You know, the classical buyer would go to every store and hand out a sheet, and you had to know the composers. You had to know, you know.
Wow.
It was an education.
Dang. So then, of course, like you said, the Reader's Digest version. So how did you end up auditioning for Yo Gabba Gabba?
Oh, we're so far away from that, bro.
We're
Far away from that.
Okay, well, let's go, man.
Okay. So I just went around a bunch of different record stores, you know, then, and then hip hop was really big, and I was really into that. But, you know, I mean, these guys were cutting and scratching, doing all that stuff. I didn't have any of that equipment, but, you know, I would watch the people come in that would buy the records, so I could talk to them about that and just kind of be.
You were just gaining knowledge from them. Then.
Yeah. Okay. You know, you'd go to some house parties or some stuff like that, but, you know, that wasn't. You know, I just liked the music. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Right. And then I worked at another record store, and then, like, the rave scene started happening, kind of, you know?
Out there in San Luis, there was raves?
Oh, yeah.
Really? I don't know, because I've never been out of the whole California area.
Doc Martin, I think Doc Martin came out or something.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
no, it was a lot of cats from L.A. came out there. Because what it was is that where St. Louis is located, it's like 4.5, 5 hours from Chicago. So you got that, and then you got Detroit. So we had the Chicago house and the Detroit techno influence around there. Right. So people would travel there. So we had a lot of good DJs.
A lot of good influences from a lot of different
Absolutely.
DJs.
Kevin Saunderson, Derek May, all those cats and stuff like that. And then the Chicago house, forget about it. That was crazy.
Right.
We got that was a good time. And so I worked at another record store where we sold like the tickets for the raves, and we were a destination point to pick up the maps to figure out this stuff. So we did all this stuff, and I just remember going to one of these parties. It was a friend of mine, actually, who I was in a band with, named David Alter, and he had this group called Superstars of Love, and they were party promoters, and they did all this stuff, and they became a group, you know, like musician performers as well, but they just put on these big events. And I remember walking into one of them, and it was all wild and crazy, and then I just walked into the chill out room, and it was like something out of a movie. The music sounded so cool. I was like, "What is this?" And then I just stayed there forever and like listened to that guy DJ, and then I was like, "That's how I want to DJ." Right. You know, like soundscapes and stuff like the Orb and all this kind of stuff like that. That was like, you know, late '90s kind of stuff.
Right. It wasn't such spoonchies. It was more like you said, like a different type of sound, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't the beat matching stuff, which is fine. I'm cool with that. Like, because I actually DJ'd this Rock the Bells festival one year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so from really not having much as a kid, you really started blowing up at the age of 18 and 19.
No, 24.
24.
It was. I just. That's what's crazy. Now you see these kids, and they're just boom. Yeah. They know what they want to do when they're 6 years old.
Right.
You know,
and you weren't one of them. You were like kind of testing waters there.
I wasn't thinking like that. I was just like, the world's cool. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. I want to check this out. And, you know, I mean, any show I could go to, and that was the cool thing back then. You know, we got a lot of comps to go to concerts. So that was the point. I was going like every night out to shows.
It's because you mentioned that at 18 you were working at a record store. So I could imagine that you were already in college at that time, correct? At 18, or you already?
Oh, yeah.
So then little did you know you were going to two colleges at the same time.
I always say working at the record stores was equal parts college and church. That's what it was like.
And little did you know that something was going to happen, right? You just kept going, like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah, that wasn't even the point of it. But, you know, then at some point when all that was going on, I was in a band called My Other Self, with this guy, David, and my friend Christopher and Steven and all these people. And so we started doing stuff in St. Louis, and it was kind of before, you know, all the electronica stuff that's going on now. So we were kind of, and St. Louis is like, you know, blues and Chuck Berry and stuff like that. So there's a lot of rock and roll. So it definitely wasn't the biggest fit, but, you know, we did our thing for a while, and, you know.
And it worked.
we went there was some cool stuff that we did, but it went as far as it could go. And then Christopher moved out to L.A. and he was trying to get the whole band to move out to L.A., but you can't just up and leave all the time. And so it took a little bit of time, but then finally I ended up moving out to L.A. and then Christopher and I started another band called the Raymakers. And so we did a bunch of gigs out in L.A. And that's when I started DJing like full force.
Right. That's where you came. That's where you threw all your knowledge then, with all that experience that you got from San Luis. You come to Los Angeles, and then that's when you have that new.
Well, that's when I started actually trying to do beat, mixing and stuff like that. I just like different ways to do it. And some people are real technical because, like on Melrose, they had like D&C and all. They had like 5 or 6, record stores down on Melrose. And people are up there doing the, the D&C competitions and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
Really? I've always thought that was kind of like what you wanted to do as you were growing up,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
No. Music is not a competition. Like you go to a concert, you go someplace, you go to a club and people are dancing. That's to bring people together. It's not to be like, hey, I can do this better. Like people feel music. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Well, nowadays, like you said, it's different. I mean, I come from a DJ background as well. My cousin, Chris, he started a lot of the underground scene as well and house parties during high school back in the early 90s. There was house parties here in Los Angeles was the thing to do. People were ditching high school or their classes to go to these house parties, and it was safe and everything. So I got a lot of that knowledge, and a lot of the guys that you're mentioning kind of knew about them, but I was never allowed to touch the turntables because I wasn't the owner. I wasn't the owner of the records.
Oh, no, you didn't want to do that. It was a good time when I got here when it was still good. Mark Farina was around and all these cats like that were doing their thing. And you go to these parties and they'd have live drummers and performers and all that stuff. Yeah. And just all these cool clubs, like
that's crazy.
It was like Louis the 14th on La Brea,
and
stuff like that. And it was a good energy in LA at that time because it was like Orange County, and there was just a lot of underground parties.
There was, especially warehouse. You were able to be part of the warehouse movements as well.
That was more in St. Louis and Chicago and stuff like that. But I went to a few things. By the time I got out here, it was like, hey, Orbital's playing at the Hollywood Athletic Club or the Orb or Meat Beat Manifesto or something like that. So it was like the bands that were kind of could perform that. But so it kind of trickled over. I'll tell you this. I was at the first Coachella, and you went there, and the dance tent, I mean, it was like, Mike Paradinas, who did all this stuff with Aphex Twin, he was DJing. Derek May, Kevin Saunderson, Juan Atkins from Detroit. It was like the Holy Trinity. They were DJing. There was hardly anybody in that tent. And now that's almost the biggest draw.
Right.
Like people go to the dance tents all the time, but it was like, quarter full, a third full.
Yeah, well, we see it. I mean, you see the headliners at Coachella, and then you tune in into because I haven't been to a Coachella, and then you go into the midnight session, and the rave scene is crazy there. It's like you said, it started from nothing. Now it's one of the biggest things there.
No, it was literally like nothing, and then it just kind of grew, and then it flipped, and more people. It's but who knows what it is? But those early shows, like the headliners were, I think, Tool and Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
So
back when it was all about rock alternative or whatever you want to call that scene.
Well, it was a bunch of different. It was cool. Like the Chemical Brothers.
Yeah.
Also played, one of the nights, and that was great.
So you've been to all the Coachellas, like besides as a.
No. I just went to that.
I thought you were going to say yes.
Zero interest. I was at that one, and then I was at another one, like the fourth one or fifth one or something like that. I didn't go like that next year, and then they took a break and came back. But I went to one of them after they came back, and then I was like, it's too far. I don't want to go. And then when Gabba happened, we actually did something in 2010 there. So we performed there, and so that was weird. That's probably in the top 3 best experiences.
Oh, so you have 3 top experiences of your life.
No, as far as Gabba. Just as far as
Gabba. I thought you
Gabba.
meant in your life, man.
No, just as far as Gabba, because it was just so surreal. And we just went there, and it was like, boom. And it was like 10,000 people there. And like the show was really popular at the time. So all these people were jumping around and stuff like that. We had these visuals and it was cool.
So you guys are one of the first ones to create visuals on your performances, right? But before we get there, taking me back to what you were saying about you and your friend, you guys came to LA, you started performing, you picked up DJing, and then what happened?
Yep, I just picked up DJing, and we had like one of the first residency. That was actually more playing live. We just got gigs around Hollywood at the time. It was good to do that, and you could go out a little bit. And it was, in hindsight, I wish we would have ventured further, but we did whatever. We ended up DJing down at Encounter, which was at the LAX.
Well, I think they call it the Hangar or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay. But that thing's just sitting empty now. But like they used to have all these different that was a cool place just to hang out and just to play music there. And then things kind of shifted because like the whole kind of retro lounge music thing came in, and where it was focused on people drinking cocktails and stuff like that. And so that was cool, and that's almost coming back around again.
Right. So that sounds pretty cool that you were able to experiment or experience all these changes from, like you said, from raves, disco, jazz. You live those scenes, so you really have an amazing knowledge of music. So what else happened when you and your friend were out here, when you guys came from LA? When is it finally when they called you up or you knew about this whole project called YOGABBAGABBA?
Okay, gosh.
Are we still far away from that?
Not that far away. It was just like, that was nothing I was thinking about. I thought, hey, you're in LA. Maybe you should want to do movies. But I didn't really want to do, you know what I mean? Like I did some theater or whatever in high school. And I'm like, I don't want to do this, But, I'm like, I could probably do it. So went out to some, and here's the good thing that happened. So I ended up being an extra in the second Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. The one where they go back to the 60s and they got the Volkswagen. Right, yeah. So that whole thing when comes back and he's there with Heather Graham and she's got those,
the shorts.
Yeah.
So you were there.
I was there. And because of doing all that extra work, that's how I got my SAG eligibility. So I could get my SAG card to be in the Screen Actors Guild.
Okay. So were you still not interested in doing that stuff? You were just...
Oh, after doing that? No.
Okay.
No. That was probably one of the best experiences that it could be. Because like Jay Roach, the director, was awesome. He was just such a good guy. But, you were dealing with a bunch of, the extras were a lot to deal with. I'll just say that. It made me like, I don't want to do this anymore.
You're starting to sound a lot like me because obviously I haven't had the greatest adventures as you. But you
don't know that. Everyone's got adventures, man.
I know, but the thing is that, you've done stuff and you kind of like enjoying life. You're like cruising it, trying this and that. And when you have a taste of it, you're like, nah, that's not for me. That's how I am as well, kind of. Like I try different stuff. And I get a little taste of how it feels, and I'm like, move on to the next thing.
Well, no, listen. If something resonates with you, that's cool. That's what, like, I don't think people should give up. If you're trying something, and like, oh, it's hard, give up. I don't think that. But, sometimes it's like, all right, that's for me. And then you should just go for it. And I'm like, I just couldn't deal with this BS. So that was out of my mind. And I just thought, hey, but, maybe we can do music for movies. Maybe we can do something like that. So me and my buddy Christopher had the group, the Raymakers. We were like trying to, do some stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of, hitting a wall at some point, but we were still gigging. Uh-huh. And then we got this, we had the first residency at this club in Echo Park called The Echo. Okay. And it was called The Echo Goes Electro. And it was, because they were trying to, rebrand, music as they always do.
Right.
But that was like a lot of DJs came. So we would play. We would do a live electronic set. And then all these DJs like from like Canada and Chicago, like from wherever. Like they had a lot of big names at the time come in. So we did that residency. So we were around and it's like, okay, meeting some of these people, maybe we can figure something out. Right. But we ended up, putting something out on the small German label and then they came over and we did like a West Coast tour. And so like,
Wow.
maybe something's going to happen. Like, but it's also, dude, it's also like what's important to you. Like, it's a cool story, but it was like, it was us, the Rainmakers, and then these 3 other bands. And so they're like, okay, you can figure it out. We started, I think, we went from either Seattle or Portland, and then just came down to LA, and they're like, you guys can either drive yourself, or you can stay in these nice hotel rooms, or you can have, this tour bus, and, alternate staying in rooms and stuff like that, or you'll all have to take turns with one room, and like, okay, you all have to just use that room to take showers or something. So like, heck, we want the tour bus.
Right.
So we did that, and it turned out it was a tour bus that Journey had used. So it was all like, airbrush painted and stuff.
Right.
It was like a cool experience, but that's
it wasn't fun.
That's all. Well, you can't make any money on that. I think we came back with no money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it was a good experience, but you don't want to do that your whole life.
Right.
So then we were still trying to do music and stuff like that. Then my buddy Christopher and I ended up getting asked to be on this internet radio station called Spike Radio. And it was like the first nationally, like internet radio station. They did a big launch for it and all this stuff like that. But then all these other internet radio stations popped up, and like some of them are still around, like Luxuria. That came up like right at the same time.
What year was that? Do you know, kind of?
2000?
Okay.
2000, I think. Mm-hmm. And so from doing that, so here's where it all comes. So from doing that, we got to DJ and play. We had our whole thing. So we're like, putting music out. This is the time, KCRW's doing all their eclectic stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, we're doing something on the internet. And so it was whatever. And I can't complain. We got to, they flew us out to New York to DJ, at this department store thing.
Okay.
And it was right before September 11th.
Wow.
Not like September 10th. It was no, but it was like before that happened. So we were out there, and then, it came back, and I was like, whoa. And so, we got some good experiences, but things started changing because they're a business. They're like, okay, you can play whatever you want to. Now you can play whatever you want to, but you got to play something out of this library. So they had a big wall of stuff we had to play, and it's like, how are you going to fit that in? And people resisted it, but I'm like, we can figure something out. Right. And we found this CD, and it was a bunch of like indie pop bands and stuff like that. It was a compilation of all these people. Right. And this one band like had a real catchy tune. It sounded good, called Majestic. And we just looked. It's like, they're from Orange County. Right. And so we just called them up and like, hey, we really like your sound. And it's like, would you maybe want to do some shows together?
Oh, nice.
And so, okay. And we did. And the lead singer of that guy, like the leader of that band, was the co-creator of YOGABBAGABBA.
Okay.
So that's how it happened. So we just, all by luck. If we wouldn't have called, this would have never happened. But we called, we did some shows together. Like, we did this little West Coast tour as well. We ended up playing at this highlight court in Tijuana.
Oh my goodness,
which was crazy. That was cool. It was like
from Seattle all the way to.
It was nuts, man. Because it was like these really cool kids from Mexico City came in, and they're like, "Yeah, we got all this stuff going on," and so we kind of hung out with them, and then we played at this highlight court, which was weird, and then.
Was that long lived? Was it a nice time with you and the guy that you guys called? You guys were touring.
We did like 4 shows together, but then we ended up doing one at the Knitting Factory in Hollywood, which is no longer there. Right. And then this guy Scott told me at one point, he's like, when I saw you perform at that show, I was like, I knew I was going to ask you. I didn't know he did anything, And meantime, at that point, I was working at Amoeba. Because that had opened up. That opened up in 2001. Okay. It opened up in 2001. So that's where I was when September 11th happened. Right. And all that stuff like that. But it opened up. I can't believe November's going to be 25 years that thing's been around.
Wow. Yeah.
That's something. But I was there, and then I just got an email or a phone call. I don't even remember, from this guy Scott. He's like, hey, we're working on a kid's show. Would you be interested in being the host? And I didn't know anything about that. I knew Austin Powers or whatever I did, but, we had a good time, and it's like, yeah, he's a cool guy, like the band and stuff like that. So I'm like, sure. I didn't know what I was walking into, and then the rest is history. We went. We were out in. I think we were out in Orange County, and they had a little studio out there. I drove out there, and that it was a kind of a setup like this. And they're like, "Let's see what you can do." And we started working on some stuff. And then Biz Marquis showed up. You know, they reached out to him just through. Things were different, man. They reached out to him through MySpace. They just hit him up.
Yeah,
and he came out.
Wow. So basically, I see a pattern here with you as a child, because you were that type of guy or type of person that would want to try stuff out, because you were like, well, let's just do it. And all this led to that, because the day that you got that phone call, you didn't know anything about kids program. You're like, well, let's try it. So you've always had that in you.
But that's probably why it works. I don't like to overanalyze this stuff too much, Diablito. Yeah. But if I was like desperate, I want to be on a show, it probably wouldn't work. Right. But because I didn't, it's like, whoa, this is cool. Yeah. Oh, these families are cool. Like, I like, like, this has given me, I've had a lot of mileage out of this, and like, I get to go to conventions and see all these families and stuff. Right. And like last week, we were up in Lodi, and they had a convention, and I didn't know how it was going to go because it was over Mother's Day, right. Like, I was gone. I could get to see my mom, but we're up there. And a lot of people came, rocking, Gabba, they had the Gabba gear on and stuff like that. And this one woman came in. She had this severely autistic kid. Mm-hmm. He was about 15 maybe, really tall though, really tall. And like, oh, he really loves you. And it's like, you want to take a picture? Sure. And then I tried to touch him, and then he pulled away. She's like, it's okay. Like, he'll warm up or something like that. But then we had these people that we met, just some fans that are like, hey, and they're like, hey, we made this Plex costume. They made a replica Plex costume. I was like, wow, would you come to, a convention sometime? And they're like, sure. So they were walking around wearing it, and the kid saw that, and he like went over to the robot. Plex is the yellow robot, and was like, touching him and getting really excited. And then it's like, I think he's ready now. And so he came over to the kid. I grabbed his hand, and then he like just started squealing so loud, like you could hear throughout the hall. Yeah. But she's like, that he's just really, really excited, happy now. Yeah. And then, we took all these pictures, and then, his mom's like, thank you this is the best Mother's Day. Well, so that's the kind of stuff that's cool. Like, you can't even plan that out. I don't know what's going to happen. I just try to be present and talk to the people. And so that's, if it was some other way, I don't think I could do it, man. You know what I'm saying? So then after you auditioned and stuff, they saw you perform. What did you do? Do you remember what you had to do for them? I mean, obviously he already knew you, but he still wanted you to kind of do something. I think the high kick is what sold it. I don't know, but see, I can't do that no more. I can't do that. I'll show you some photos when we're done. That's why I'm glad that there's some photos that we're taking, because I was like, I did that one time before, really, And so I think that was it. I just was there. They kind of liked the energy, and, we all, learn together how to make a show. And obviously it worked, because obviously my kids that watched you on TV, you, I don't know how you say it in English, you transpired, or that energy that you gave to the TV was so connecting. Not a lot of people do that, and you did that. And that is why Yo Gabba Gabba is so huge. It's not known only here in the United States. It's known worldwide, man. You're like a worldwide figure, and it's just very weird, because we really wanted to, I really wanted to do Latin America, but they're like, oh, we got a DJ Lance, right? So they dubbed my voice, and then they had some guy out there doing it, which is cool. But I mean, I would have liked to, like Blue's Clues, like that's not Steve. Right. Like, you can tell, and kids can tell. And so that's why when we did our live shows, I tried to do all of them. I don't think I missed one. And one time I ripped my meniscus, and I just, I couldn't even stand up. And like, oh my goodness. I'm like, what can we do? And then the doctor came, shot me with a steroid, put a leg brace on, which you could kind of see. Yeah. But I went out there and did the show. So that's how I know why those football players are in trouble, because I didn't feel anything. So when you got that call to finally finalize everything, and they told you, okay, this is what you're going to put on, did you have a lot to do with the designing and stuff like that? Absolutely. Because your DJ background with all those graphics that you guys had as a DJs, you implemented those in Yo Gabba Gabba. Well, no. I mean, listen, there were so many things that were collaborative, but like this look came from me because originally they had something that was more like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, like Gene Wilder's look.
Right.
And so they had like a style guide. It was like, the top hat and then, the tails on the jacket
like,
and stuff like that. I'm like, you can't move in that. And so the whole idea for me, the concept was kind of like, like a jumpsuit meets Logan's Run. Right. So that's why the lines are kind of like this, kind of futuristic.
Right.
And, orange was my favorite color at the time.
Okay.
Note I said was. And now, I still love orange, but I only wear it if I'm working now.
Right.
I'm done with it. It's too much. But I like it.
Right.
And so this is what we came up with. They designed it. And then the hat, a friend of mine had gone to see some concert in Portland. Mm-hmm. There was this band called Polyphonic Spree. And they were out like in the mid 2000s.
Right.
And I don't know why they had this really cool orange fuzzy hat.
Uh-huh.
That's what they had. And so I took it in. I'm like, what about something like this? And then the wardrobe lady, she looked at it and she's like, I can go downtown and get some fabric. And then they made it.
Right.
This is it.
That's great, man.
So it was just, yeah. So some things have to be planned out. Some things are more organic the way they come about. But I just also thought, if something happens, will I be cool wearing this for a long time?
And it is. It's still cool, man. Because I had the honor, and a lot of you guys will never, ever see it. I saw him transform, and I was like, oh, my goodness. YOGABBAGABBA is DJLANCEROCK. And, yeah, man, and I appreciate you being here and telling us your story because you have a lot of Latino fans. I know you said right now that you wish you could perform in Latin America. I think you have, especially here in Los Angeles. When I would go see you with my daughter, so many Latinos were there watching you with their kids, and to be part of it was amazing, bro. Like, really, like I said, you have that presence on TV, and then on stage, you were another guy,
Well, here's the thing. It's like, it's so weird. Some of this stuff is so simple to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, Sesame Street came on, and that was like, we're trying to be inclusive for all kids. And it's like, there's a lot of kids that have exposure to stuff, and some kids don't. But like this sort of thing, and education, and just, creativity, and like access to the arts and stuff, that should be for everybody. And so we don't exclude anybody, but it's not like, look at what we're doing. We just do it. You know what I mean? And that's why we try to do as many different things as we can. So we did Rock the Bells, but then we also did, Festival Supreme, which was a comedy thing. That's Jack Black's thing, But we also did Coachella, But we also we tried to mix it up. And then, one thing that I did on my own, and I did DJ, was a few years ago. I did the Tamale Festival here, And it's great. I love it because the way I see it, like, Los Angeles is Mexico. Right. On the real.
It truly is.
On the real. So if I'm here, I love it. And it's so cool. And like, it's great. And I really get, really kind of moved a lot. Like we'll do these big conventions. Like when we're in San Diego, like this cat came up and he's like, my son and I came from Colombia.
Right.
I'm like, wow. And just so it's that's what's important to me. Like, it's nice to have money and live and do stuff like that. But when like you've touched some people's lives and it's like, hey, this brought me and my kid closer together. That's cool.
It truly is, man. Seeing you on TV, because I tell you a lot about my daughter. Her name is Luna. We used to watch you. She used to watch you a lot, and I would sit there with her, and we would watch you, and it was crazy. And then we heard that you were going to be at the time it was called the Microsoft Theater for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, yep. We got to go. So, we got tickets and we went. And then when I had my second daughter, we went the second time, and it was just surreal. That's when I think you brought out for the first time Biz Marquis. And I'm like, what? In my mind, I was like, how do they know each other? And now that you mentioned the whole connection, I realized that that's pretty cool, man.
Biz was great, bro, but please continue.
No, it was you're just amazing. And what I wanted to ask you before you talk about Biz is, what did you like more, performing on TV or on stage?
No, 100% on stage.
Yeah.
Because that was a connection with the people. That's what I like. I don't even want to do that other stuff.
Wow.
But you got to do it sometimes. But being with the people is where it's at. That's what's important because it's. I'll show you some stuff when we're done with this on the phone. But it's nuts, man.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's cool, but it's also humbling. It just makes you realize, this is important. That's why, little kid, you remember what you liked when you were little, right?
Well,
the shows that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that always stays with you. So that's important. So I'm always going to be engaged and very approachable to the kids. I think maybe, it's nuts. Next year's going to be the 20th anniversary. Isn't that crazy?
Of YOGABBAGABBA, 20-year anniversary. Oh my goodness.
August 2007 is when it dropped.
Well, actually, my daughter's turning 20 this year, right? Yeah. In October 5th.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm telling you, she was a fan of yours since
all along on the trajectory. But, it's just like, I don't know. It's that kind of stuff's just really important.
Really? Are you still connected to programs and stuff like that with kids or I mean, because I know you do.
Well, we do like Make-A-Wish and stuff like that sometimes. And, yeah, we're still doing some stuff, and then people reach out to us on the website, and we do some stuff like that, and
yeah, because I think a lot of us who are your fan, we realize that something had happened with YOGABBAGABBA when you guys showed up to Coachella. Was it last year or the year before?
It was last year, so that was the 15th anniversary. So it was because we did it in 2010, so we did it that one year, and that was kind of like, what the heck's happening? That was kind of crazy, and then. They did it last year,
right?
And it was kind of like a homecoming, but that was kind of because things had changed a little bit.
Right. We realized that you weren't really the head; there was someone else. So I guess that's the transitional moment for YOGABBAGABBA, right? Because they did this.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I know. Here's what I know is that I went out there. I had a little moment, when I went out there. It was really well received.
It was.
And when we finished, I just walked the grounds and all these people were losing their mind. They're like, I grew up with so seeing these people who are adults now. It was crazy. That was just moments that were so crazy. But it's also cool because there's all these people, like these different bands. They don't know who I am. They could care less. So they're like, who's this guy dressed weird in orange? But if they knew, they knew. And the people who did were really grateful that I was there. And so I'm glad I did it. It was that I did that for the fans. That's why
we were there at Coachella.
That's
so it was like I said, I've never been to a Coachella, but to see you on TV was amazing. It was like, what? It was a highlight moment for our household.
Wait, so you saw it on online?
Yeah, we saw it on. Yeah.
Why would you pay money to go to Coachella? That's all. They didn't do that when it started off. That's why it's weird to me now. I'm glad people go and keep that thing alive. But I was like, wait, I can stay at my house and just look at this. I'm not going to be out there with all those people. Nope. No, thank you.
So what were we going to say about Biz Marquis?
Biz was great. See, I want to just keep everything positive. I just want to keep everything positive because Biz was great, and it was almost like Santa Claus. Some of the kids would come, but kids are all different. Right. Some kids are just real shy, and some kids don't like anybody besides their parents. It doesn't matter who it is, But I'm just going to say it. That was just a lot of things that. The reason I'm very mindful, I'm very aware of what I'm doing is because when the show started, the people at Nickelodeon were like, you can't have Biz on.
Right.
They don't want this big black guy on. He's going to scare kids. That's almost what they said. And it's like, what? Kids don't think, that's how can you be in kids programming and think that way, in a way, And so that was great, just to the credit of Scott and Christian, the creators. They're like, we're keeping Biz, And they didn't want to keep Lissy Hall because, she's very made up and looks exaggerated. But, that kind of look is everywhere now. She's so funny and engaging. She was a really great performer. And she you know, they were like, we don't want her either. And that ended up being two of the most popular, you know,
Characters.
people on there, for sure. And that's why it's like, you can't always listen to these people that's why I always want to stay connected to what the people are doing. Like, all this other stuff is ridiculous. And I'm like, what do you mean some big black guy's going to scare something? Like, that to me was kind of like, that's, you know, and if that's the case, well, that's their problem. Like, there's as many people who will like him.
Well, I'm glad that they proved them wrong because
absolutely,
Bismarcky and the one you mentioned, I forget her name,
Leslie Hall.
Leslie Hall. They were popular. They were, you know, they were doing positive stuff. And
popular, absolutely. They made buttons out of them, some merch and stuff like that. You know, people would come up, you know, like a lot of people would come to shows dressed as Leslie, which was kind of funny, you know, because a lot of people dress up.
And what do you feel, or what did you feel, DJ Lance Rock, when you saw people start dressing up like you, man? And mind you, you just told me that you were like, you know, you're part of it because, you know, you're part of it. You like doing stuff. But then all of a sudden, there's people dressed like you. What did you feel, man?
You know what? This is not something I crave, so I'm not like, hey, I want the attention, I want this and this. So it's hard for me to register what it is. But some of it's a trip, you know, like when we did the Thanksgiving Macy's Day Parade, that was another one that was like, that's in the top 3. That was so crazy, bro. Because, you know, you'd watch that on TV, but then they have the whole thing mapped out, and you're on, you know, this float, and you're going down, you know, this parade route and all this stuff like that. And you're like, you just hear this noise and like, what? And you look up and it's like people hanging out of every window of their building, like, yeah! And it's like, it was crazy, but it was all positive, but it's overwhelming. And some people like that. It's just a little, it's like, that's not a natural environment, you know?
Wow.
I'm a chill guy. I like to, you know, kind of stay in and keep it quiet, unless I'm out doing something else, you know, like going to DJ or something like that. But, you know, I don't want to be, you know, that's why I don't post a lot or something like that. I got stuff I got to do.
That's crazy, man.
You know?
And that's a cool thing, though.
But here's what was great. So we did that, and it's like, okay, this is gonna do something. And then, you know, so we did this one episode, and we got Questlove to come in and play drums on this song that we did.
Questlove, okay.
And so, you know, he was very cool, big fan about it. And so I don't know if it was his doing, but somehow, you know, talked to Jimmy Fallon, and we ended up being on the Late Late Show. Like before he did the Tonight Show, he had the Late Late Show.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And so we went out there. He had us on several times. He was really a huge supporter, like on late night TV. And this was some crazy stuff because what we got to do, it was because the first time we were on, we were just promoting, hey, we're going to be doing a show in New York. And we didn't do, like, I'm like, why would we just be on this show and just do like a kid's show song? It'd be really weird. A lot of people would do it. And so I'm like, I don't want to do it. And this is like my TV debut. Like, I've never done this before like this, you know? Like, I was, like I said, I was in Austin Powers, but that was a whole different vibe. This is like, they're filming it, you're in front of an audience, that's it. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What's going to happen?
You were the main character.
And so I had to figure it out. I'm like, you know what? I love Spirit of the Boogie by Kool and the Gang. That's like one of my favorite songs. I grew up that. It was like when I was like, this is what music's about. It just caught me. I was like, that's what I want to do. And so they're like, okay. And then Questlove, the Roots, they figured out what they were going to do, and we did it. That didn't have anything to do with Gabba. That was never there. But they just let us do it. And it went over really well.
Nice.
And that was cool. And then they had us come back again for, you know, we were doing 2 more shows in New York. And we had just filmed this episode where, you know, Bootsy Collins is my father. That's when you see him and my sister show up. And I just got lucky. I got lucky, man, because here's what I did. Because they're like, we can do X, Y, and Z. I don't want to do that. Okay. And so they're like, here's what I want to do. I want to do, if we're gonna perform this song that we just recorded, I want everyone to be there. Of course. You can't do that. Okay, I won't do it.
Wow.
And then they're like, well, maybe we can get so-and-so. But what if we don't have, I'm like, I don't want to do it. This is what I want to do it this way or not. And like, it's not like even a negotiating thing. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? If we're going to do it, like, isn't that what, if you're going to do it right.
Of course.
And so they ended up doing it. So they got Bootsy Collins out there, Erykah Badu out there, Biz, Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo, Leslie, everybody. And then we did this song with the Roots. And the song hadn't even been aired. This episode hadn't even aired. So we just premiered it and just did this thing live. And it was crazy. So it was all of these people and the characters.
Right. And it was one of those surreal moments for you. I could imagine working with so many people.
It was, well, and that's the thing. You can't really think about it. Like, if you're going to do it, you just have to do it. You can't be figuring, but like when we did the first time we did it, before, like, we're going out, I was like doubled over.
That's crazy, though.
Like, I'm going to be sick. I don't know. But then the camera comes on. Oh, you got to do it. Like, I'm not going to look like a fool on live TV. So there's just, it's sink or swim.
Right.
For real. Like, you just come to a point where you got to figure out what you're going to do. And so I did it. And
right.
That was cool, you know. And
so that's cool, DJ Lance Rock, that you're able to just enjoy this moment, something that you didn't see coming, and now you're here, you know. And for me to hear you that you've done so much stuff and you're like, you know, you enjoy the moment, but you know, at the same time, you're not like me right now. I can't believe you're here. It's like, you know, I seen you on TV, I seen you on stage, and now you're here. And like I said earlier, it's a surreal moment for me because, you know, you've grown with a lot of us, you know.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy. And what's left for DJ Lance Rock? What do you have coming up? I know you're doing a lot of greedy meets. You do a lot of conventions. But what else are you planning something? Are you planning?
We got a lot of stuff, dude. And I'm so glad that you had like said that, you know, that that I have a big Latin fan base, which is great because, you know, I feel that and I love that. And, you know, especially, you know, all this time I spent in California, it's like, what are we going to do for kids, you know? And so I worked with this illustrator from up north, and we put out this ABC book, and it was really cool. It was like, just like, you know, like R was for record, right. T was for turntable, and stuff like that. It was a cool thing, like, you know, like B was for boombox.
Yeah.
It was all that kind of, it was a cool book. And we sell a lot of that, but it's like, why don't we do something that like a little bit, you know, instead of just an ABC book, like a story time book. Okay. And so we've been working on that. And then my manager, Oscar Arce, and I, see, that's the other Oscar.
Yes, that's Oscar Campos.
and I know Raul Campos.
Oh, really?
KCRW.
Oh, KRC. Yeah.
So see, it's all kind of connected.
Yeah.
But we wrote this story because it was like, wow, you know, I want to, you know, it'd be cool to maybe do like a bilingual story.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, we wrote this story, you know, and we've read it a couple of times, like when we did these appearances, you know, and it's like, oh, we got pretty good feedback. So we're waiting to find the right illustrator to do it, but it's called Sal de Vida.
Sal de Vida.
Sal de Vida. Yeah.
Why Sal de Vida? What's it stand for? Maybe I'm missing something here.
Isn't that
Sal
to life?
Oh, Sal de Vida.
Sal de Vida.
Sal de Vida. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it's about this kid named David Rodriguez who doesn't like to, you know, eat spicy foods.
Oh, okay.
And his whole family's like, what's wrong with this kid? And stuff like that. And so it's
Sal de Vida. Okay.
So far, the response has been good. So we might tighten it up, but we're just trying to find the right images for it and stuff like that.
Do you go to visit the elementary schools or stuff like that, or that's not on like your agenda?
We have. What we did a few years ago, like right after the pandemic and people were coming back from stuff, we did this thing with the public library. And that had been like years in the making because Oscar reached out to them. I'd email them. We do all this stuff. And it just took a while for them to find the like 8 or 9 years. It took a long time, dude. And then, so we finally ended up connecting with them. And so we did like a summer tour of the libraries. And they have like, I think 72 branches. And we did like over half of them. We did like almost 40. So we just went to all these different libraries and just read. So it was like a mini, I'll show you something on the phone.
You have a lot of pictures to show me, man, and videos.
I do. It's cool. It's cool. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about that.
Okay, so you got this Sal Vida book coming out, and anything else? You know,
There's so many things. There's so many things. It's all these irons in the fire all the time. So we're always trying to create and do stuff, but you got to figure out what the market is going to be. Right. And, I'm just selling a bunch of DJ Lance merch at the conventions, which is cool. And so people are like, oh, okay, you got this, like this new style. And so that's good. Gabba's always going to be there. People always come in. So, we're just trying to keep it so we can keep it going.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So, hopefully there's going to be some new stuff. We've got a lot of ideas for designs, but I'd like to get this book out and the stories because, kids are always going to read or want to read or something like that. Yeah. So just to, give them something.
Anything digital, because nowadays kids just on their cell phones, man. So, I mean, that's a great way.
We're working on it. We got, dude, I'm telling you, COVID threw a wrench in for us.
I think for many people.
We had a bunch of stuff developed, and now it's like, okay, we just have to, pivot.
Yeah.
So it's cool. So as long as I can fit in the suit, I'll
Yeah, don't have too many tamales, man, because I know you said you went to a tamale festival, and if you keep going to those, look at what's going to happen to you, DJ Lance.
Well, I'm sucking it in, so you can't
tell. So. Earlier you told me that's the original suit, man. That's like the OG. There's no other one. So if you happen to, go in there and change, and I take off with your suit, that's it, right? No more.
Okay, You're going to pull a Jack Black on me? That's what he did.
Oh, really?
On that episode when he came, he had to get in one of the suits. Yeah, yeah, he came and, he visited all the characters and hung out with them. And then when he met with me, I was like, hey, Jack, what are you? Yo, Gabba Gabba. And then he put on this suit, and he was like, wow, it fits. And it was so funny because when he put it on originally, he kind of ripped it.
Oh.
So it was just kind of a big joke. But he was the coolest guy, man. He came in, and they were trying to be like, okay, he can only be here for, 6 hours, 8 hours max, and then he's got to go. And he's stayed 4 hours later. Right. They wanted to, because this was after Nacho Libre.
Right.
And he's like.
My favorite movie, by the way.
Right on. And he wanted to do something with, for his kid. Mm-hmm. So it was like, this is something I can be on that I can watch with my kid, blah, 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 blah. And he was just real cool. And it was just a real important lesson about not he cares. It wasn't just okay, I'm going to do this. He wanted to do a good job. And,
How many actual, well, I mean, all of them that were special guests on YOGABBAGABBA, how many total did you have? Do you remember?
How many guests?
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah, okay.
I have no idea. There's a lot. Because also the way the show was filmed, they could film the Super Music Friends one day, and they'd have to build a special set for the band to play on.
Right.
Then they had, the dancey dance. So somebody would come in and can do a dance, and, they would beam them in, and they would teach the characters how to dance. Then there would be a segment for the characters, I put them down there, bring them to life. They're doing something. Then there's the stuff that I did, and some when I'm by myself.
Right.
So it just depended on what was going on that day. So I wasn't there. I filmed a lot of stuff by myself.
Oh, really?
Okay. But then when you did the circus episode, then I'm there, and Weird Al and all the people are there for that. Or then when we did the outer space episode, and so there's a bunch of them that I'm with them, but a lot of times they had their own adventures because I'm up here opening the boombox and they're down there. So sometimes they would shrink me down and I would go and hang out with them, but
So for us that are still fans and we see on TV, and obviously we always say, oh, it looks easy. It must be easy to be put together. How many hours for one episode at least? What was that like? Was it 12 hours, 14-hour days?
Who knows? We had producers. We had these two producers that were really good. Yeah.
So okay, that's crazy. It's just I know that a lot of people think it's easy to make TV shows or children's programs, but it takes a lot of work.
Oh, it was a lot of work. It was a lot. There were a lot of gears going on there, and so it was.
Yeah, like a lot of people think making a podcast and that it's easy, that you're here magically. Like I called you one day. I mean, it takes planning, it takes organization, and
absolutely. And you can't just show up and just have people sit down and. I mean, I guess you can, and some people like that stuff, but okay, I don't want to just hear people talking.
Right.
Well, I can talk to anybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what do you have to say, or how do you want to do it? So I appreciate that. You have this planned out. You have a whole concept of what you want to do.
Thank you.
It's cool.
And again, thank you for being part of Como Diablos. And it's a surreal moment for me. I apologize if I'm kind of like still spacey. It's just crazy to have you here, man. But I'm glad you talked to us today, and I appreciate it, DJ Lance.
Absolutely. And I'll just say, hola, amigas. Soy DJ LanceRock. Y como diablos is awesome.
All right, thank you so much, man.
You got it.
All right, guys.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yeah.
That was quick. That was an hour?
Yes.
Didn't even, are you sure?